Hey, how's it going? Excuse me. Look at my signs, please. Or let me try that again. Look at my signs, please. Just a little disclaimer action. So, okay. I want to talk about what happened yesterday. It didn't actually start yesterday. It started last Thursday. And I have one of these, which they put on your arm, on your wrist, when you go to the hospital. And, I'm going to go in reverse. No, I'm not. So, last Thursday, I woke up and my leg was normal. And my right leg. And then in the afternoon, I went to sit and meditate, and I went to put my feet up, and I noticed that my right leg was really swollen. And, it was bigger than the other leg. And I thought, oh, that's probably not good. That's weird. And, I didn't really do anything, till a couple of days later. And then I looked it up because it kept swelling and swelling, and it just felt so tight, and I knew it was not a good thing. And the reason why I didn't do anything, like call an ambulance or any other thing, was because, well, I did try to get a ride down there. I didn't have bus money. And I have a motorized chair, but I am afraid to take it very far. And the reason why, and you might be thinking, are you crazy? You had something serious, and you knew it, and you were like dawdling around and not, jumping on that, taking care of it. And the reason why is because it didn't feel like an emergency. Like it wasn't making me feel. The only sign of it that I could see was that my leg was swollen. And so I looked it up after like the second day or something, and saw, it could point to having a blood clot or some other serious thing. And I was like, okay, that is, more serious than I put it to myself, although that wasn't a surprise. Like, I think I've known about a blood clot in your leg being serious since the guy that was a journalist was on a flight, and he was on flights all the time, traveling the world, and he died because he got a blood clot in the airplane, I guess, or from being in the plane. So I was aware of it. And so, I called my friend who knows a little bit of everything about everything, and I said, what should I do? But see, I had an ulterior motive, I have to admit. I didn't tell her this, but she does have a car, and I was like, if it's bad, and she also thinks it's bad, she could, maybe take me, because it's kind of, important, I guess. And so she didn't call me back because I had woken her up, and I waited a little bit longer, one more day, until my caregiver came. And so she took me down to the hospital, and, I did whatever. It takes a long time when you go to the emergency room, And so, it turned out I didn't have a blood clot, so good news there. It was a vein compression issue. So now I guess I already am going in reverse. But I'm gonna go back to something that happened over the summer, that also has to do with this same issue of, it's like a circulation thing where you're there's a name for it, like insufficient vein something circulation. And so in the summertime, it was really like scary hot for a couple of few days, almost a week. And the terrible thing about it is this place, just like the place that I left to escape things like this, Los Angeles, I moved north, quite a bit further north, to where we have seasons, or we did when I first moved here, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, it was really hot. It was hotter than it would have been at home. You know, it was extreme, and so my feet swelled up, which, you know, I'm getting older, and so it shouldn't have been a surprise. But when I looked down at my swollen feet, I saw fat old lady feet, and it really kind of pissed me off. And I was like, "Dang it, I don't want that." And but I was looking at them, and I noticed, oh, what is this? I have these spider veins, and I hadn't had them before. And I was like, oh, great. Just what I wanted. And so my caregiver at the time was a young guy that was 19. And I said, oh, it's a fat old lady feet. Like, my feet were fat, but also I'm not, you know, like, slim right now. So, or then. and he said, no. I used to be, like, really heavy, and he told me he was like 2 other people worth of pounds more. And he said, it's the heat, because my feet have been swelling up, too. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you. That's nice to hear, but the spider vein thing, I also looked that up, and I was familiar with the name, but I wasn't really sure what they did, except for, like, you gotta be some kind of knucklehead if you can't figure out that, like, the veins have something to do with circulation. Hi. Well, you gotta learn how to shut the door. So, when I looked it up, that's when I learned about the insufficient vein. Circulation is not the third word in that name, I don't think, but it'll suffice. And, you know, just that title alone points to, like, malfunction or not great function or whatever you got to tell yourself. I did not want to hear that. And so, and I know that part of having good circulation is getting a lot of movement and activity, which is something that I have been really conscious of not being able to do for several months since, like, August, because of injury and COVID and then recovery from both. And I haven't been able to exercise. And so, you know, it was on my mind. Like, I already was aware of it. There's, like, respiratory things. Like, I need to go out and get winded. It would be really good. Especially, gross, sorry, I know. Especially since I had COVID, which, it was alarming how short of breath I was, because I have a cat that I'm allergic to that I don't want to get rid of. And so I'm congested all the time. And that will make you short of breath on its own, and then, like, all the other stuff that I said, the inactivity. So anyway, going even back before that, and this was on my right foot where I noticed the spider veins. Like, both feet were swollen, but they didn't both have the veins, which also points to something. Not a doctor, but it's just like a stack of symptoms happening there, and they can add up to things I know that are not considered great. So just, you know, trying to keep a level head about the whole thing. And before I found the spider veins, a couple of years before this, also on my right side, and I know that this has nothing to do, as far as I'm aware, of circulation, but one of my chesticles, just one, decided to start growing, and that created a whole set of new things to deal with. It's not something that I really want to talk about with people, because it doesn't matter. The thing is that it all happened on the right side. Most of it has to do with my heart and circulation. So then I started thinking about, why is it heart? Why is it all on the right? Does that mean something spiritually? Because now I just look up stuff I'm not sure about spiritually, and a lot of times there is something to it. So this is why I went through the whole thing of telling all of these things that happened on the right side. And that I felt like it was like heart-related stuff. So I looked up, what was the question I asked? No. Don't want you to do that. Which side of the body is associated with the heart spiritually? In spiritual, yogic, and esoteric traditions, the heart is primarily associated with the right side of the chest. That happens to be the side with the with the rogue boob, and so I'm just going to continue reading here. Particularly within Advaita Vedanta, as was taught by Ramana Maharishi. I don't know what that last bit meant. I understand that it was names, but I think you're supposed to know what the names refer to and who they are. But it does go on. While the physical heart is on the left, the spiritual heart, often called it's an Indian name that I'm not sure how to pronounce. Hridaya, often called the Hridaya, is located one finger width to the right of the midline of the chest. Here is a breakdown of the spiritual associations. Right side, spiritual heart. This is considered the seat of the Atman, self, the divine, or I am. It is seen as the center of awareness, witness, consciousness, and deep unconditional love. Okay, so to me, all of those things have to do with spiritual awakening and consciousness. And, you know, to just say consciousness, I don't just mean like you're not, you're not unconscious and knocked out or asleep or something. I'm referring to spiritual consciousness, where there's a sort of knowledge involved, because I saw something earlier that said the more knowledge you gain, the more consciousness you attain. And I don't know, I didn't feel like that was quite right. It's not like book learning or a study, something that you study. It's like lived experience and what you learn from that. That's my understanding of consciousness in the spiritual sense. But, so consciousness is like a big deal. And as far as things like the event and the Flash, I can't remember the name, but that's something that's sort of pop culture awakening stuff. And it is like a place you'll reach along the way, but it's also consciousness, and the learning and the knowledge of those things expands as everything expands. Your ability to absorb new ideas and concepts about the way that you always thought things were, or what reality consisted of. You will go through points in your life just regularly, like asleep, so called, and have these new revelations, and it's, a natural progression. But well, I guess no, but oh, okay, so that's consciousness. It's more than just like I don't know, like a dictionary will have often more than one definition for a word. This is kind of like that. So, like, the consciousness is more of a more expanded version than just like being awake as opposed to asleep. So, part of that experience involves things like the lived experience happens in your heart a lot, in your mind as well, but that's a more logic based sort of knowledge center, and then your heart is emotional. I mean, it's in our language and we've experienced it. I don't think I have to expand upon that. So we got like the correspondence of things on the right, where to Western medicine they make sense, and then for being on the right side for whatever reasons they have. And then there's the part that has no bearing on that I include, and everyone else that I've talked to about this, just about until I explain what my thinking is just like they just ignore and don't pay attention to it. But that's like the same way that DNA was treated when they're still learning. I think they are starting to get into the area of learning that there's a quantum physics thing happening in DNA, which, I learned about before they did. And I'm not a scientist. I learned it from a spiritual channeling. So, anyway, the point is that along with everything else that's going on physically that we're all going to acknowledge, there's all this other sort of more subtle esoteric stuff going on. And here's more. When all of those things were happening recently that led up to the hospital visit, before that, probably about 2 weeks ago, I started, I had been meditating a lot, with an eye on helping on a spiritual level, like all of the uproar and unrest going on in this country and in the world. So I was just meditating more with like that intent, and sometimes with just no intent, and just doing it as an open two-way channel, but just having just being very neutral, like the whole meditation just being neutral, not putting any intent or spin or whatever on it, just getting into that state and just kind of like hanging out there and letting thoughts come and go and whatever. And so I noticed at one point that was like, like some things that happen in your body, you can hear, like you can hear yourself breathe. If you crack a knuckle, you can hear that. If you ever broke a bone, you can hear that. So when I was that still and quiet, I realized that I could hear my body doing things. And so I just, no intention of anything. I was just like, oh, wow, well, that's kind of cool. But I was just kind of into it, like hearing different rhythms and pulses and squelches and things, and just kind of tripping out on it, I guess. And then, I don't know, I had been doing it for probably about a month or so, and right in the middle of all of this leg stuff, I come across this person online talking about that well, they said that something, they kept experiencing something, and I asked them what they thought it meant, and they didn't know if I was joking or not, so they asked me, truly? And I'm like, yeah, truly. And so they said what they thought was happening, and we got into a little bit of a conversation, and they said that they were like meditating and sitting still and just listening to the sounds of their own body, and I was like, wow, deja vu, whatever you say. And then the conversation turned to like things that like you sort of, she and I would take seriously because we sensed it or felt it, and noticed that like something was different, or I was listening like just to my body, but it's a way to learn how to just listen in that way, with that sensory way, and we'll pick up on other stuff, and so the point is, those things are also important. Like, they're just as important as whatever a hospital can detect. Like, all of the other stuff with the veins and the circulation and the right side of my heart, well, the right-sided part is, here's the rogue part that doesn't really comport with the official medical thing, but there's still that coincidence with everything else going on there, on the, like, something unusual happening, all of it, on this side. Like, I don't know. To me, it makes a certain kind of sense. I just haven't fully, determined what all is what all it's about. So I pulled a few cards, and I pulled a card from the Body Oracle, and this is the card I pulled, the Heart, and it says, okay, the subtitle is Vitality. I mean, if you got good circulation in the bone room, you got that vitality. You got that good circulation. Hold on a second. I got an itch. It says more. Let life move through you. But you don't want to have blockages, spiritual or otherwise, spiritual or hemoglobin. So, and I also have a couple of cards from the Declarations of Mary Magdalene deck. And the first one says, when one seeks another for recognition, one seeks love within thy own heart, not yet found. Encompass the love that dwells within you, for thee shall never seek outside for what one already holds within. That says, love yourself, and then you'll just become so lovable outwardly, if that matters to you. But, it does more than signal, physical attractiveness. So, heart stuff on here. And these always make me think, like, this is definitely, well, it's talking about romantic love, but more than that. Like, I think if you're talking about, like, the twin flame relationship thing, this probably says it more concisely as what it is than what pop culture would have you think, because it's pretty typical regular old relationship stuff, even down to the karmic relationship, or the karmic, I forget the name that they have, but it's like kind of soap opera, and kind of not about like what it's really about. but layers and levels of consciousness. This is talking about, well, what I was saying before, like finding validation for yourself when somebody else does it, and it's like, that's not valid. It's talking about when you get to that place where you're not looking for love anymore, where you just have the satisfaction of being on your own, and it's no longer about being on your own, it's about what you have learned to live in that condition. And so when you stop looking for the thing, then the thing is all about trying to find you. And in the sort of pop culture way, that's like exciting and good. But in the other way, it's also that when you are ready, like in the actual twin flame sense of, like, I think like the real meaning, as opposed to like the pop culture-y one, is that you find what you need in yourself, and then you become attractive to someone else in the same state, so that neither of you need the other person to validate you. Your attraction is more pure than that, and that's really, like, good. I think, I hope I described that well enough for you, because that's all I got on that one. And this one says, when one lets go of that which one no longer possesses, one frees the mind of the illusion that once was. So, yeah, we don't own each other. No matter what our kind of messed up programming tells us, because there's degrees, there's layers of that, levels of that too. Like, you could have like an aggressive possessive, and somebody that gets physical with you and really restrictive, and that kind of person that you hear about in the shows about relationships that go really bad, like on Snapped or something, because you're lured into a space where you're thinking one thing going in, and then you get behind closed doors and discover you're with a monster that, no one else can have anything to do with you. You are their possession alone, and also you don't have an opinion either. You've become an inanimate object, basically, and it's not a good place to be from what I've heard from the stories and movies, and I'm sure articles and novels and so on. So, and I'm talking about this from the side of the person being possessed. There's also the person the possessor, the person that, like, you can't just have a person that you love near you. You have to, like, know everything. Like, you have to live inside their skin. You have to know what time they're going where to do what and who exactly they spoke to the point that you're not going to your job and you're trailing. Like, that seems like an unhealthy place to be. And so what would be healthier is to let that stuff go, like, and let the other person go. If there was love, they'll come back. That's a more depth to the, if you love something, set it free, and if it loves you back, it'll return. But who's under the illusion there? Because the last sentence says, I guess this is one of those single sentence cards. So, okay, I'll read it again. When one lets go of that which one no longer possesses, one frees the mind of the illusion that once was. So, I mean, you can only possess someone conscious and awake to the degree that they allow it to happen. If you're one of those aggressive possessors I was talking about, they're gonna create a resistance for you. Like, that's kind of their whole jam, like I described. But as the possessed object person, eventually people don't want to live that life anymore and need to, find their way out of it. And they have probably let go of, possessing people back, because it's a different thing. Like, it's like transactional almost, or you're kept like a belonging, like a possession, like an object. And that's not a great place to be, and where you can't, like, every way you turn is, no way out. That's terrible. But again, another thing that is a matter of the heart, or at least starts out that way, and then what you end up with is like hearts in not great condition sometimes, and wounded and things. But it's part of that lived experience. It's how we learn. And I know I talk a lot about learning lessons, and everything is a lesson, and I don't know what else to say. That's you have other words for what we're doing here. Submit some. I ain't mad, I'm just saying. Anyway, so I'm gonna finish up here. Oh, good, I'm doing great on time. So when I did finally leave the hospital, I was there like a long time, and the person that dropped me off there couldn't stay until I left to take me home, because they have a life. I was there for like 7 hours, which is probably, pretty good for an emergency room experience when you just go in because you got something wrong with you all of a sudden. Luckily it wasn't crowded. Ooh, yeah, because otherwise I'd be coming home now. But getting home was kind of I had no plan to return. I actually didn't have enough money for the bus, and I think the last one went past me when I finally left, because the ride service kind of pooped out on me, and I don't know if I would have waited another hour and a half if it would have come. But they had told me when they discharged me, because I was there for over an hour after they discharged me, waiting for this ride. And I got up and I said, hey, are they coming to the person that was on the second shift? And they had just gotten there and they were already irritated. And again, it wasn't crowded, so I don't know what her problem was, but I asked if the person was really coming, and she said, you didn't give me an ETA. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. And so I thought, let me just go. It's not that far. It's not that close. But if I'm going to go and, follow the treatment plan, which was to elevate my leg, I needed to get out of sitting in the hospital with my foot just filling full of blood. So I left. I know it's kind of rash. You may not realize this, but like I said, it's close, but it's not far, but it's not that close when you're wheeling yourself in a chair. So I got about a third of the way home, which I happened to pass the local police station, and luckily for me, there was a young, nice officer out there watching me struggle, and he says, what's going on with you? Do you need help? And I told him I was just going home, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, you know what? Hold on. Let me go tell my whoever, whatever, or something, and I'll give you a ride. And I was like, I'll take it. So I got home, most of the way I didn't have to actually haul myself. Um, but you know, the whole it was an experience. I don't even know if I've like finished processing it and everything, but I'm gonna go. But what I'm saying is I'm leaving because I feel like I'm gonna pass out. It's the second night now, but I still need my sleepies. Thank you and good night.